Welcome to another episode of Exit Philosophy. He's Mal, I'm Griff, and we're here, like everyone else in North America, waiting for the big chill to hit with the snow that's going to cancel everyone's flights. So sit back and enjoy our podcast. It's a great opportunity, and thanks for you who are listening. Thanks for subscribing to Exit Philosophy. And if you enjoy us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. And Mal, it seems appropriate that we start with the departure of Bo Bichette to the New York Mets.
Right. Big news.
Yeah. So let's talk, Bo. What were your impressions of the presser in New York? And we'll get into the fact that he left Dave Dombrowski at the altar with a $200 million deal that he thought he had for 7 years. Well, we'll get into that. But just the presser itself with Bo and his new team, the Mets. It was kind of brief, but what were your impressions?
Yeah, I think like anything, I don't think Bo's overly comfortable in that situation. I mean, he's your true baseball player who I don't think ever attached himself to that other side of the game, of the PR side, which, I mean, he's fine, but he didn't exactly look overly prepared for what was coming in a New York media setting, did he? Which I think caused it to be a little bit brief. So I think Bo views himself as a baseball player, and it's never really been his strength. He does what he has to do and gets back to focuses on baseball, but it showed. It wasn't, overly polished by any means. The frustrating part from being in that role, like you were, especially with a guy like Bo, there are certain having that be my career, and same with you. You could prepare guys all you want, and sometimes the subject is the subject, and they really struggle with how they present themselves. Bo isn't like that. He just seemed a little unprepared, and that surprised me a bit too. That's kind of how I took it. I don't know what you saw, but
I'll refer back to your point when I was PR with the Jays from 2019 to 2022. In 2019, of course, I was there in Montreal when he came for the exhibition game at Olympic Stadium, and he was just a kid. I think he was at AA at the time, but he did everything. He was cooperative, brief, like not much has changed. And then when he came up at the trade deadline in Kansas City, it was a real zoo. I mean, there were players moving in, moving out. Daniel Hudson left during the game, and we had to bring the media down to talk to him in that tunnel between the clubhouses in KC. So Bo played in that game, got his first hit. He had just arrived. So the next year, the next time, that was 2019. Next time we went back to Kansas City, I tried to prep Bo. Bo, you're going to get a lot of people saying, hey, this is where you made your major league debut, got your first major league hit. Be prepared and get ready with a good story or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we get there, and that's the first question at his little get together with the media. And says, so Bo, what do you remember? What is it? What does this mean to you coming back to this ballpark where you made your debut? And he goes, it's no big deal. And he turns and walks away. That was it.
He's building that brand, Griff.
An opportunity. So
right.
that's why I'm wondering how he'll do. And we've talked about Bo and his personality. I mean, he's a lovely guy who's never turned me down as a PR guy, never turned me down as a journalist for anything. Like he wasn't dynamic at any of that, but he was very cooperative and nice.
Yeah.
And he's a good kid. But I don't know how he'll do in New York, and I'm interested in hearing what you think. He's not a type A personality. He's not a clubhouse leader. That team doesn't need him as a clubhouse leader. They've got Lindor. They've got a bunch of guys. But when the media turns on him, if he's 0 for 15, How do you think you handle that?
Well, I think the jury's out on that part of it. We know how they can be when you don't perform well. I don't think he'll be required. Like you said, there's a lot of guys there. Bo, and you know this because you were there, he was kind of given the reins, him and Vladdy, at a very young age. They kind of catered to those two guys. They and I think too much because the team wasn't great. They were the story. They were the guys they were kind of banking on to bring the team to the next level. So they kind of gave him a lot of whatever they wanted type thing. It was their team to run, so to speak. And I think at that young an age, I think that was a problem. But coming here, you got a lot of guys. Like you said, you got your Lindors and Sotos and guys that take the heat off Bo. But you're right. The question is, if he comes out of the gate hitting 200 for April at $42 million, you know what they're like in New York. And I think that's where the jury's out, and that's where the story will be told. I can't answer that for you, but he will be shielded for sure. But, I think for the most part, he'll go bust his rear end, play well, and he doesn't have to answer a million questions every night. And I think he'll be fine because he's such a gamer and such a baller. I think he'll be fine. But that is a question. If you come out, can you sulk? Can you sink to further lows? I think that's the storyline worth following.
Yeah, we've both dealt with so many players that were leaving where they were and not pretended, but they were always like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to finish my career. And then they go to the next place, and it's as if they don't think anyone from the old place is ever going to hear anything that they say.
Like it's 1965, and
it's a brave new world. So stuff that he said at the press conference in New York at CitiField, sort of, I don't know if it'll come back to bite him, but it's an organization that is set on winning. He just came from Game 7 of a World Series, that's not something that you need to say. It's talk about the $126 million for 3 years with an opt-out after years 1 and 2. Yeah. And that leads me to this question. Do you think if he has a great year after $42 million that he'll opt out with $84 million left on the table for 2 years?
It seems hard to believe, doesn't it? But the way the landscape's going, he'd have to have a spectacular season, to even consider it. But not that he can't. He can lead the league in hits. He's done it, and he would have done it last year. So, but he'd really have to add power. It's hard for me to fathom he'd leave $42 million on the table unless for some reason it went sideways. He wasn't happy, and the dollar figure became less important to him. Well, it just doesn't. It seems hard to believe.
I think that's the thing. That's the wild card here is not being happy, because when you get to that dollar value, and we've seen it with free agents all over baseball in the last several years, where somebody will say, "Oh, well, they had a better offer somewhere else." Well, it's gotten to the point now where you're making so much money that you just want to go somewhere where you're going to be happy. So the wild card here is if he finds out that he's not happy in New York, he has an opt-out. He could leave 42 and 42, 84 on the table, and then find somewhere that comes close or maybe gives him more term. But I don't think that'll be Toronto.
You could also be unhappy for 3 years and still figure it out.
Yeah, that's true. What am I talking about?
It's not forever.
But talking about Bo's inexperience in dealing with this sort of thing, there was a question from John Heyman, I think, with the New York Post. He said, "Is this a 1-year deal? Do you see this as a 1-year deal?"
Fair question.
And Bo hesitated. He didn't hem or haw. He just hesitated, then turned to his left and looked at his agent to answer the question. And I don't think that flies with the New York media, who are sort of piranha-esque.
Well, and it doesn't fly with anybody. That again, how and that's on the agent. I'm sorry. How do you not know that's going to be one of the 3 or 4 questions you're guaranteed to get? How was he not prepared to answer that? You clearly could see he's like, oh, I didn't think of that one. Somebody help me. Like, that's just not being prepared for the press conference. And yeah. I don't know, man. I just know how you got to have an answer. This isn't off the cuff stuff. I mean, you know the question's coming.
Yeah.
That's just bizarre to me. I don't know, but
I remember in Kansas City, somebody asked him why he was wearing number 11 for the Jays, and apparently that was all that Moose and Scott had on the road. The equipment guys had on the road was number 11. Besides, 19 was just coming off Jose Bautista. And for some reason, the number 19 was given to a utility infielder.
Right, exactly.
Alan Hansen, I think.
Yeah, they don't retire numbers. I don't understand that one. Yeah.
But I remember in Montreal, whenever a player who was iconic to the franchise left, they didn't give his number away for years. They didn't assign his number. So, I mean, Bautista had just left the year before, but still, I looked it up, and Alan Hansen.
Well, who better than to give it to Alan Hansen?
Yeah.
The transition to the next legend.
I have no recollection of Alan Hansen, and I was working with that team.
He was one of your players.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it actually didn't happen. Maybe that's not real. I don't know.
Yeah. Somebody just threw it in Baseball Reference.
They just threw a name out there. It didn't exist. Who knows? But I'm happy he's got his number.
His dad, Dante, wore that number 19 in Anaheim and then with the Red Sox.
Right.
So I forget what number he wore in Colorado, where he was made his name and made his reputation. But yeah, that was in the final years of his career, and that's probably when Bo was aware.
Right.
Growing up. So now Mets infield. Bo agrees to go play third base. Well, I would, for $42 million, do something I'd never done before. Sure.
Right.
But their infield now, Francisco Lindor, one of the best at short, Bo at third, Marcus Semien, who started out as a shortstop and had to move because he came to the Jays for Bo, and now Bo has to move when he comes to the Mets with Semien at second. And at first base, they have Polanco. They have inexperience at the corner infield spots. And, it's not just fielding a ball, throwing a ball. It's reacting in certain situations. I remember Vlad, when he went over to first base, it took him forever not to go after every ground ball and leave first base wide open. So how do you think how long do you think it'll be before Bo becomes a third baseman and Polanco becomes a first baseman? I mean, that pitching staff, the Blue Jays pitching staff has benefited tremendously from the quality of the infield defense. So how long will it take, do you think, for the Mets to stabilize in the infield and really help their pitching staff?
Well, and that's the answer. We don't know. But you've got to think there's going to be some, transitional period where it's not buttoned down. And, I think, again, that's where you got to give the Blue Jays a little bit of credit on focusing on some of the defensive aspects of the game. And it's really helped them. It's helped, like you mentioned, it's really helped the pitching staff. And it's not something that is just so apparent all the time. So the Mets kind of have that, we'll stick guys everywhere routine if they can hit and figure it out. And you pay a price for that. And that can really hurt your pitching staff. You know what it's like. You get a ball that gets through or a play not made, and it's a domino effect. So I do think that's something to watch. Obviously, you get all your reps in spring, but it's never the same. It's something to watch how long it takes. There's going to be there should be a certain period of time it's going to take them to figure it out because I think Bo will be fine.
But one thing one thing you point out, which was probably second or third on my list of satisfying results from the Blue Jays, World Series run where they got to 11th inning, Game 7, blah, blah, blah. But is that Major League Baseball is such a copycat sport, and to see teams over the winter saying, well, we want to improve our run prevention and our bat to ball and contact, that's as a result of the Blue Jays' success.
Perhaps.
I mean, yeah. I remember Kirk Gibson being signed as a free agent by the Dodgers back in 1988. And he hits that home run, and they go on to win the World Series. And over that offseason, everybody was looking for defensively, not challenged, but, less than Gold Glove fielders who could hit the ball. Yeah. That was the copycat at that time. And I've noticed it every year in different iterations since then. And this is one where GMs were definitely going out. We want to improve our run prevention, which is sort of the catchphrase of Ross Atkins and his group.
Yeah.
When they weren't scoring any runs,
just say defense.
We're focused on run prevention. And all of a sudden it came together. So, but that's one of the things, and I'm not sure for the first third of the season whether the Mets will be among the leaders in run prevention. So we'll see. But, good for Bo. The thing about Bo also is, and we see this behind the scenes more often than not, but the Phillies believe they had an offer. They had a deal with Bo Bichette.
But they
did. 7 years, $200 million. And I saw a clip with Dave Dombrowski, good friend, not friend of the show, friend of me.
Yeah.
And he was quite candid about it, talking about how it's going to take him a while, but you got to get up off the mat and you got to go back and work with what you got. I mean, it was a real honest interview about how much they thought they had a deal with Bo. How do you think that affects anything? Bo, his agent, the Phillies, the relationship between the Phillies and the Mets. How do you see that working out?
Well, I mean, it's happened a million times before. You never have them till you have them. But I do think it's like anything. You accept a job, and then the next day somebody offers you more money, or your old place, and then you go back there. It's never a good look. It happens, but I think Dave's probably type of guy who quietly will remember that too. He's a pretty professional dude, right? So, it comes back to, who you can't say for sure because, we don't know the inner workings, but it sounded like a deal was done. So I think it's not a great look overall, but you also understand when they throw all that money on the table at the last second. So, I think what was clear to me from the press conference, and not a surprise to this podcast, is that he was never coming back to Toronto. Yeah. That was quite evident. And while everybody was hopeful, it's my opinion that there was never an offer made at all. And it was like what we suggested the last couple of shows. They were just kind of fake in it for the sake of Bo, and vice versa, to not come out and say anything to, it helps the market, and just it's good look for every side. But he was gone years ago, like we suggested.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been saying, is that the last time they actually talked a multi-year deal with Bo and his camp would have been 4 years ago, when they signed him to the 3-year deal that led him to free agency. At that point, he would have said, well, I want to test my free agency to see what I'm worth. And they would have said, okay, well, here, take a 3-year deal so we have cost certainty going to the deadline, thinking that might change his mind and he might look at them more kindly, not having to go through arbitration 3 times and hear what a horrible defender he was from the club.
Yeah, I think they did the 3-year deal just to avoid that nonsense.
Yeah.
Knowing that's where it was going to go.
So both sides 4 years ago, when they negotiated, knew that was going to happen, that his free agency was an inevitability. and that he wanted to test the market. And the Blue Jays, to me, didn't want to be part of that market, didn't want to be used to ratchet up offers with other teams. So there's a legit chance, not that they weren't interested in bringing Bo back, but they weren't interested in ratcheting up the offers with other teams. And Bo knew it, the agent knew it, the team knew it, and it just never came back, never came around to the Jays having another chance.
Yeah, like if people don't understand, especially with players that you control, that how much negotiation went on over the last 5 years, how many offers were made to extend them, like many other young players, and it was decided that wasn't going to happen 5 years ago. Bo wasn't interested, and neither was Vlad at the time. So they were fortunate to get, Vlad was on the same path. So obviously they had to pay $500 million to do it rather than the $200 million 5 years ago. But that's just, those things happen. And if guys aren't signed to that, they're probably heading, and both sides knew they were heading to this inevitability. And I think with Bo, it was quite apparent. And the Blue Jays, knowing it, have been preparing. This is not a surprise.
Yeah.
That's why they trade for Jimenez. That's why they turn around.
Yeah. I mean, the Jimenez deal was clearly getting prepared for the inevitable, or the chance, the good chance that Bo would be moving on.
The likelihood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the whole thing, it seems to me, in the last 8 days has been a series of dominoes started by Kyle Tucker going to the Dodgers, which disappointed several teams, including the Blue Jays. Then the next day, we can just imagine that Steve Cohen was so pissed off that he bumped his offer to Bo, and because that was within 12.
Seems like it, right? Seems like it. It seems like that's what happened.
So let's do a short term with Bo. They were gonna do a short term, I think, with Kyle Tucker as well.
Yep.
So we'll just throw Bo in there instead of Kyle, because we need our fans to not be storming CitiField with torches.
Yeah.
So, and then after the Phillies lost Bo to the Mets, they had the cash, or they had the ability to re-sign JT Realmuto, which they should have done. They probably would have done. And that deal is less than I would have imagined. 3 years, $45 million. And then came Cody Bellinger off the market a couple of days ago to the Yankees, which also seemed inevitable, especially with the Mets making moves and the Yankees not having done anything. So the dominoes fell. Now the top 30 free agents remaining. Out of the top 30, there's only 5 left. Framber Valdez, Zach Gallen, Eugenio Suarez, Chris Bassett, and Lucas Giolito. Nothing much there to.
Are you surprised that what seems like a lack of interest the Jays had in Bellinger, considering how hot and heavy they were on Tucker?
No.
Okay, why?
I think Bellinger, and we've discussed it before, to me, players who come from New York and Boston are generally a-holes. And
I don't know if that's true.
It's just a Griffin.
It's Griffin vibe.
Yeah. But I think Bellinger is more of a big market, and the Blue Jays are a big market. Yes, they represent a country. Yes, and that works with some players. But I just don't think that, Bellinger. There's so many analytic negatives that are tossed out there, like his bat speed's not elite, and this isn't elite. They have a first baseman, and they have a center fielder, and they have a corner outfielder they're paying $92.5 million in Santander, and I just didn't think that they wanted to settle. I think they're good with this, and spending that much money for Cody Bellinger just, to me, wasn't in the cards. It's not like they lost out. I think neither side was really. You never heard the Jays being mentioned except on social media,
right?
And internally and with sources, it never came up. So I'm not disappointed, and I think moving forward, you get more playing time for Addison Barger. You get so definitive position for Okamoto. And so I think they're all right.
Speaking of being an asshole, I guess Framber Valdez is on the FAFO train right now, eh?
Yeah, what a moment in his time, in his personal time, where he crosses his catcher up on purpose and hits him in the chest, and then turns around without even apologizing. And I think people may have noticed that. Yeah, right. But
not good for your free agency.
Yeah, FAFO, baby. Let's go to. I think we've covered Bo and free agency, and so do you think the Jays are interested in anything that would amount to I think they still need a bullpen front end or a back end of the bullpen, a guy that can sort of fill in for Jeff Hoffman or replace him during the season if he fails. But like they have a very high floor and a very low ceiling. It's like they're going to have to go through spring training in a crouch.
Crawling. It feels like, if anything, Griff, doesn't it feel like maybe a trade might be a possibility somewhere? I mean, I'm not really sure. Like for a bullpen piece, look, yeah. they don't have a shit ton in the farm system still, and I'm sure they'd try to package some of their extra pieces, that they got, whether that's your Schneiders and the like Lucas, maybe to see if maybe you can add an arm that you throw into the mix.
Wait a sec now. The arm would be Jose Barrios paying most of that contract.
Well, there you go. So there's the
bullpen piece who could help this year and beyond, and throw in a couple of those other guys.
Yeah, fair enough. So that certainly seems like the route that might happen as we, and like I say, it doesn't have to happen even before spring training. You can wait it out. Like Barrios is your insurance policy. If anything goes sideways with Bieber or, guys get hurt. So, but you could be, that's something you could work on even, right through spring training.
But there's something to keep an eye on. And we've discussed it several times, you and I, is the impact of Jose Barrios being at spring training every day when he knows there's no spot in the rotation for him, and that the media, although most of it is Rogers media, so they might not press him on it, but
definitely not.
But the fact of him being a distraction.
What's that?
The fact of him being a distraction, but I agree with you because you brought up that going to spring training might be the best thing because there's 29 other organizations and injuries happen to starting pitchers at spring training. So your market might open up in that case, and if you're willing to pay, as the Jays clearly will be willing to pay most of the contract, then they can afford to wait. It's just a distraction that I was worried about.
And he's a legit starting pitcher. Yes, he's regressing somewhat, but still be in demand as a starting pitcher for a lot of teams.
I love that guy as a human being and as a winning pitcher, as a pitcher who you throw out there and your team wins. And I know that you don't think that's important, but it happened 94 times last year, and the Blue Jays went to the World Series.
Winning, I think, is important, but
the wins didn't go to him, and they scored a lot of runs when he was out there. But the fact is that they had a .630 winning percentage his entire career with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, no question.
How do you beat that? There's nobody that beats that.
When he leaves, we'll be able to see how he really feels when he sends a message to one of the Sportsnet reporters. So.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention that. How about Bo sending his farewell to Toronto and Blue Jays fans and Canadian baseball fans through Hazel Mae?
Good for Hazel. That's her literal job, is to, she's certainly not an analyst in any way, or a traditional. She's a sideline, does her job exceptionally well, but I thought that was extremely strange for Bo to do. You would think he'd find a different outlet. And again, this is where I come back to that's an agent's responsibility nowadays. Like you have to have more in that, you know, in your basket as an agent. You got to have the PR side in there.
Yeah.
So it just you're looking after a guy's brand, just not his contract. This isn't the 80s anymore. So you know, as an agent, you'd probably say, let's do it this way. You know, maybe you can get help writing the message, but to have it go through Hazel was certainly a different look. That's for sure. I'll give you that. I thought it was a little strange, but like I said, good for Hazel for having those relationships, because that's what she builds her brand on, obviously.
Oh, she has some unique relationships with the players that, like, and I think of Rowdy Tellez, and I mentioned it to her on the conversation with Griff that we had, but her turning Rowdy Tellez from a petulant bitch to a great interview and a really nice human being was Hazel. It was about Hazel digging in to find out what was wrong, and there was some personal stuff going on, and like she turned him around, and you know, she's terrific at her job. People enjoy watching that.
That's literally her job, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
you know
people enjoy watching that as a sideline reporter rather than being overwhelmed with charts of stats and you know.
Yeah. Somebody else does that.
Barrels, yeah. So, you know who wouldn't have let that happen? Scott Boras.
Right.
Scott Boras probably has guys for the little things,
but you're supposed
to remind him.
You're supposed to. I mean, that's just providing that, like you say, it's going into that interview and clearly not being prepared to answer the most basic of questions. Sending a message through Hazel, because obviously that's what Bo wanted to do, but your job's to go, hey, maybe not. Hey, maybe let me send the message out. You know what I mean?
We were leaving Bo, but a couple more things. I have never in Bo's career with the Blue Jays had seen Dante Bichette on stage or sharing a moment with Bo as a Blue Jay, but he was there on stage for the photo sessions with Bo in New York. How do you account for that?
Well, I think anybody with half a brain realized when Bo or Dante was so involved all of a sudden, and I think he kind of forced his way in there with the Blue Jays, that there was some friction there, and you know, he abruptly quit through the COVID time because they weren't supposed to, you know, a coach wasn't allowed to be involved, and you know, I think he decided to just lay low after that. I think there was, and understandably, there might have been some friction there. It was kind of a, you know, I don't know how that would have reverberated through the rest of the hitting coach, you know, stable, because there's a lot of hitting coaches nowadays. So suddenly have Dante in there with that personality, I'm sure was an issue, you know, inside the management team. So I'm not surprised now he's jumped. It's a good moment for his son. Good for him. But you're right, he was absent since that time, and there's a reason for that.
Whenever I think of Bo, and it was Hazel was involved in this. It was the 2019 January Blue Jays Festival, the winter thing, and they had a stage set up, and they were doing a simulated version of a sports, or it wasn't even sports. It was using Blue Jay players and retired players for a version of the $10,000 pyramid or whatever it is, 100,000, where you give clues and you answer questions all in a certain category. And Bo was on stage, and I forget, Jimmy Key or somebody was giving him clues, and it was movie category. And it was.
It sounds like one of those skits, things that should never happen.
The answer was Titanic. It was the movie category. And so the clues are: big ship sank, Pacific or Atlantic, iceberg. And Bo's going, I don't know. Big ship sinks before it gets to New York. And that was, for some reason, that has stuck with me since 2019.
Never saw it, clearly.
Not a big movie fan.
Oh my God.
Let's move on from Bo officially now and go to the Hall of Fame. And two guys, and I have a question at the end of this observation, but Beltran in his fourth year gets 84.2%, and you need 75% to get inducted. Andruw Jones, good call, ninth year,
Finally.
10, and 78.4% on the ballot. That was a good call, and so was Beltran. Beltran was made to wait, obviously, because of his involvement in the 2017 Houston Astros sign, or not? Is it sign stealing? Would you call it sign stealing?
Yeah, sure. It's quite an elaborate way to do it, but yeah, of course it's sign stealing. Yeah,
bang the drum slowly.
Yeah, or quickly. Actually, we don't have much time.
And I have a great photo from the winter meetings in, I forget where they were, but with the four Puerto Rican managers, and Carlos Beltran had been appointed to the Mets, Alex Cora, and then the Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then there was a fourth one, and all of a sudden Cora and Beltran are gone, and I have a photo that doesn't mean anything.
That's four dudes.
Yeah. So Beltran and Jones, the only ones in. Chase Utley, and remember, you need 75% to get in. And some of these guys ascend the ladder very slowly and are inevitable to get in. Chase Utley, I wouldn't have voted for him if I hadn't given up my vote because Pete Rose was being pushed by the president of the United States. And I said, I don't want to vote if this is being politicized. And I've changed my mind, and I'm going to vote again next year if they give me back.
You made your point.
Yeah, I made my point.
And I'm proud of you. Very good.
And I think I blame the commissioner for that too, because he pardoned every dead player who had been suspended. And like, what?
Because just for Pete Rose and the president.
For Pete Rose and the president.
Yeah, I know.
So Beltran, Jones, Chase Utley, in his third year got 59.1. Andy Pettit was post 04 when his steroid allegation came up, and therefore he fits onto my list of anyone who cheated after the rules came in. I'm never voting for, and that included Manny and A-Rod.
Yeah, if you're going to have that stance, I think that's the only way to go. You can't decide. You can't decide who you like better than the other guy.
I like this guy. He's a good guy, so I'll vote him in, even though he cheated after 04. No.
Right.
King Felix, he's the beginning, and this is part of my question to you at the end of this list. King Felix.
Okay.
2 years. It was his second year, 46.1%. He moved up. I think he's inevitably going to get in. A-Rod, no, fifth year. Manny was on his 10th year and done. And the others are in the 30s and 20s. Abreu, Rollins, I will vote for next year. Cole Hamels, I'm not so sure. It's like being the best of the worst. To me, it doesn't qualify you for the Hall.
Not there.
Pedroia, Mark Burley, I voted for early because I liked him.
Yeah.
And he pitched in under 2 hours. Vizquel, I would have voted for, and then he played for the Jays, and then I didn't like him because he was a
such valid reasons.
He had videographers in there, and he was the last one. He was the first one to leave and the last one to arrive at ball games in the year that he was with the Jays. Like, come on. And then he had the nerve to comment on the coaching staff at the end of the year not being dedicated enough. And this guy is like showing up late and leaving early.
Yeah.
And had a video crew in the clubhouse every day to do his biography. Anyway, I'm wasting time on that. But David Wright, Francisco Rodriguez, Torrey Hunter. Torrey Hunter's an interesting case, but he's at 8.7%. He might fall off the ballot. So that leads me to the question of next year, where Buster Posey might be the only really legit candidate. My question to you that I was arriving at is what's happened to the swell of deserving Hall of Famers that we've seen over the last decade, where the ballots were crowded and there wasn't room to put certain guys on until the next year. What's happened? Why are there 2 years in a row where there's not a lot of deserving candidates?
I think most likely it's just a downturn in just how it went. But you've made the point before. We're not finding players that are hitting the milestones that we used to value, especially for pitchers. I mean, you just win totals. You just don't pitch deep into games or sometimes long enough to accumulate the stats that they used to accumulate back then. And B, we don't value wins anymore. So that landscape is changing, which brings me to Felix Hernandez, who I think is deserving. I think when we have to look at different light with pitchers, especially, how dominant was he? Just how dominant was he in his era? And change how it looks. And I think over time, when the voters get younger, they view things differently than, say, fellas like yourself. When they've come from a different era, when we just know you did. You valued it was all about the wins and ERA and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just we've changed how we've progressed in the game. So guys aren't getting the wins. So I think Felix Hernandez isn't so obvious to us. Yet to me, he's a Hall of Famer. It's like Dave Stieb never had shot because he didn't get wins, Griff. But to me, he was an absolute top pitcher in the game for a decade. How is that not Hall of Fame worthy?
Did Dave Stieb ever win 20 games? I don't think so. Did he?
No.
Yeah, Steve Rogers, same thing. Steve Rogers dominated for 5 straight years in the National League when he was in Montreal, never won 20 games. And at that point, if you got your Hall of Fame ballot and you looked at the candidates' stats and you didn't see 20 wins, he had no chance. And that's right. What happened to Dave Stieb.
Right.
Dave Stieb would be ahead of Felix today in terms of being valued as a future Hall of Famer.
Correct. And Felix, to me, is a Hall of Famer.
In fact, the Veterans Committee, I'm not a big Veterans Committee guy, but in this day and age, as we both talk about the transition in what is valued and the comparison of eras, some of these guys are going to be voted in by the Veterans Committee in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And I honestly believe Dave Stieb will be one of those.
Well, look what we went through last year discussing guys like Delgado and things like that. Stieb significantly, it was better than his peers back then, like significantly. He was as good a pitcher in the game as there was, period. It's not like he was on the periphery. He was as dominant as they're coming. He needs to be in the Hall of Fame, if you ask me. Now, let me ask you. So now we go into next year. Is Buster Posey a Hall of Famer?
I think we talked about this off air, but one of the reasons I didn't vote for Mark McGwire was that he had 1,547 hits, whatever it was. And I looked at Buster Posey and he got 1,500. And I'm thinking, well, if I didn't vote for McGwire, then how can I vote for Buster Posey? Well, and he had an 11-year career. He's a catcher. But I blame him not blame him, but his technique caused him to be injured, and the collision at home plate changed the rule. It's one of my favorite rules, running over catchers. That's one of my favorite things. Both my sons were catchers. Yeah. Both my sons were catchers. And I remember stepping over my stricken son, Patrick, who was lying on his back because he had been run over, stepped over him to argue with the umpire. And like, Debbie is in the crowd going, Debbie's in the crowd going, what?
You were still proud. Just stepping over my
But when that disappeared, and now you get major league managers challenged because a guy had a foot in the baseline.
Oh, it's terrible.
On a slide to the plate,
Terrible.
If I was a major league manager, I would be embarrassed to challenge on that regard.
Well, if you take a guy out at second base, even if it's legal now, if you're going to get in a fight, like stop it.
And I think it caused Bo's injury on September 5th or 6th or whatever it was when he slid into Austin Wells, because he didn't think he slid knee first. There was no classic slide. He slid with both knees
awkward
forward because he thought there's no chance he's going to be blocking the plate and I'll be okay. Now, if the old rule was there pre-Buster Posey, he would have slid in properly, feet first, maybe even a spike up, try and knock the ball out. He wouldn't have been hurt.
Or shoulder.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No. Well, yeah. The guy doesn't have the ball.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not so sure he's a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you, McGuire is not. There's no question. But maybe he is. He's on the fence. I mean, you caught, but he not long enough. Just not long enough in my mind.
I think there'll be people who say, well, Joe Mauer's in, and so he's in. So Buster's in. And I think there's a sentiment. It's like the Hockey Hall of Fame, where if you're in a broadcast booth for a team 10 years after you retire, they look at you and go, okay, he's around the game now, so we'll put him in the Hall of Fame. And the Hockey Hall of Fame, to me, is a joke. It's an opaque voting system where you don't know who voted, who was on the ballot, whatever. But in baseball, it should be different. That just because Buster Posey is GM of the Giants doesn't mean that they'll vote him in. But I think he will get in because of Joe Mauer and because he's a good guy.
Maybe. And I'm not so sure that's enough. But you're right. The fact that there's not a whole lot of candidates other than, at that top of the heap. And maybe you're right. He gets in. We'll see. But I actually like the fact that the two guys got in and you could justify it. I mean, it depends how you feel. It's we have such a hate on for guys that took PEDs, and I get it. But the sign stealing thing was pretty bad. Yet it's kind of forgotten now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, just because you know what's coming doesn't mean you can hit it. So,
well, it sure helps.
Good point.
It sure helped the Blue Jays this year, and we know that.
The defense for Carlos Beltran is that his stats were horrible when they were banging the drum, but he was also 40 years old.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, the MLB Network put out a top 100 list, and they carried it through 2 weeks, revealing 10 at a time. So the list here, and I examined the list this morning, and I just want your comments on the fact that there's 4 Blue Jays, and with a list of 130 teams out there should be 3 1/3 players per team. So that's the average, 3 1/3 players per team. So the Blue Jays in the top 100 have 4 players. They have Vlad at number 10, George Springer at 47. They have Alejandro Kirk somewhere on this list, and they have Dylan Cease at 100. So they made it to the World Series Game 7, 11th inning, with 4 top 100 players. And of course, Bo would be on that list. He is on the list, but he's not with them anymore. Right. And there's 6 Dodgers in the top 22. That seems like John Schneider was robbed as manager of the year, and Dave Roberts should never get any votes if he's got 6 of the top 22 players. I
think that's fair, actually. I mean, and the list seems, it's true. I mean, the Dodgers obviously do have that many great players. There's no question about it. And that's kind of the story of the Jays, right? They did more with less, for sure. I mean, we all know that. It's not a surprise. So it does reflect well on the manager.
Yeah, I just think that there's some starting pitchers in there that I think Kevin Gausman could have displaced. He's not on the list. And, there's players that maybe Dalton Varsho should be on instead of.
Well, but I also wouldn't
at the
have,
bottom, near 100.
I wouldn't have Springer in there near where he is. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, he's 47.
Yeah, I mean, he's 37 years old and had a miracle season after 2 years looking like he was done. So, I mean, what have you done for me lately, right?
Rafael Devers was 46. I think I would much rather have him at the plate than Springer at this point. 46, 47. And then Bo was 48. Just wait till 1 year in New York, he'll be 12 or something.
Yeah.
Because of the New York factor. And then Jeremy Pena, who I think is a great young shortstop.
Yep.
University of Maine.
I mean, any of those lists, I mean, you're certainly debatable, right? Yeah.
But you go down near 100 where Dylan Cease is number 100. He's the only pitcher of any kind on the list for the Blue Jays. And we are going to argue at some point that they have one of the top pitching staffs or starting rotations.
Well, there's also the list out of top 100 pitchers, right?
Yeah.
And do they have 4 on there? I think. They have Cease, Gosman, or 3.
Savage gets on some
list. Savage, that's right. They have 4 of the top 100 pitchers.
Here's some that are debatable. In number 87, Zach Neto. How did he get on that list? And then number 90, Andruw Abbott. 92, Shea Langelier, as we say in Quebec. Should not be on there. Ben Rice, 95. That's a New York pick right there.
Yeah, come on.
He doesn't have a position, and he's like sporadically good, and he's number 95 on the list.
That just seems a little aggressive there.
Okay, the AL East. Just a quick. We'll go over this and then move on to a couple things and wrap it up.
Okay.
The AL East. I have re-ranked after. I was waiting till Cody Bellinger signed to see how that would affect my projected division standings, and I'm going Blue Jays, who were 94 and 68, Red Sox, who were 89 and 73, Yankees, who were 94 and 68, Orioles, who were 75, 87. That might surprise you. You might disagree with me there. I know you disagree with me on the Yankees. Mm-hmm. And the Rays at the bottom, 77, 85. They'll be lucky to win 75 this year. What's your...
I have the Yankees, and then I have those other 3 teams and toss them in a bowl. Blue Jays, Orioles, Red Sox. I mean, I think the Orioles have a little work to do still, but I love that roster. I think the Jays overachieved substantially. They're obviously decent, don't get me wrong. And Boston's sneaky to me. I don't think they're done yet. I think they're just going to be, they've got a lot of young players coming. Baltimore and Boston have a lot of young players that can improve substantially, where I don't see that with the Blue Jays. They are who they are. You know what I mean? And I think they overachieved. I know that's doomsayer maybe mentality, but everybody's loving everything Blue Jays this year. And I think they're just a step behind the Yankees. And I think they're in that middle pack with those other 2 teams. And that's what they're all good teams is my point. That's what's going to make baseball this year a lot of fun in this part of the world. The AL East is a beast. And I do agree with you on the Rays. I just don't see a path. This idea that you just give them a pass because of the Rays. Well, they're just not very good right now. Sorry.
The Orioles, I thought, were better 2 years ago, and I think
they were.
They've made the mistake. They've made a mistake that a lot of teams that become good in a hurry do, and they try and accelerate things. And I think they're a better team 2 years ago when they were surprising everyone with 100+ wins. And I just looked at them and I liked them earlier, but they haven't really addressed the pitching staff. Their bullpen's not as good as it was 2 years ago. And their rotation has like 2 or 3 guys that you're hoping get better. Of course, the Jays are the same thing. But yeah, the Orioles, I picked 4th, and I thought I was going to be picking them 2nd. So
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They're dangerous to me.
Yeah. I will be doing a full column on that subject, the AL East, with a team-by-team breakdown of rotation, bullpen, of the whole thing, and that'll be coming out Monday morning, so that'll be good.
Right.
Okay, the non-roster invitees to spring training, they've got a shitload of them.
Yeah.
I would say look out, and this is Yariel Rodriguez is still in the system.
Yep.
Paying him, and to bring him back to the major leagues, all they have to do is crook a finger and say, come back to the major leagues. I mean, he passed through waivers. Everybody knew that nobody was going to take that contract, because when you select a guy off of waivers, you take the whole commitment.
He's a legit member of the bullpen, the major league bullpen.
Yeah.
You know he's going to be there sooner than later, right? Because somebody's going to get hurt or falter, and he's just – it was just a roster flexibility move, right?
Yeah. So. And really, I had discounted him till realizing that he was being invited, and he will be in the main clubhouse at spring training, just like everybody else. Yep. He has all the relationships. They know what he can do. And, you know, they're not 100% deep in the bullpen. There is room. A guy that I would watch out for at spring training, Gage Stanifer, right-hand pitcher, could be this year's Trey Savage, and a guy that by the end of the year might be knocking on the door, might be have a role at that point.
Sure.
Josh Kasevich, shortstop, highly ranked a couple of years ago. Injuries, underperformance. Do you know anything about him? What do you think about him?
No, but you know what, though, it's nice in spring to get a look at those guys, to see what they actually are and how they perform on you know, against a lot of major league talent. Like you said, also with Arjun Nimmala coming in, it's just going to be nice to get a look at them. You know what I mean? To see how they handle themselves, how they handle some major league arms and higher end. It's just
it's funny you brought up Arjun Nimmala. I don't think he's ready this year in any way. But to have him in Major League camp and all those other shortstops, it's something for them to gauge themselves against. And I think it might bring out the best in all of the non-roster guys. And we'll see by the end of the spring which of them comes out on top. Don't think Arjun Nimmala is ready.
Well, he showed you last year that it's not like progression isn't linear, as I say, right? Yeah. He has a lot of swing and miss there that you got to overcome. So talent, but
yeah,
it's not
so
easy.
they got like 18 or 19 guys. Yeah. Jorge Alcala, who's had major league experience. Rafi Lantigua, who everybody loved when he was here before and is coming back again. Eloy Jimenez is intriguing.
Yeah.
6'4", 250. Not really a defender, but certainly a hitter.
Yeah.
If he's willing to go to Buffalo, I don't know if it's one of those deals where you, by a certain date,
he's got an
roster, you can opt out.
Yeah, maybe.
He'll be opting out, but it won't be for $42 million.
That's right.
All right, one more topic, and then we get to NFL and sign off. Salary cap. It's becoming more and more apparent.
Well, get used to this conversation, because we're going to have a lot of them.
Yeah, and we both agree it won't happen in this negotiation, or maybe that it shouldn't happen, but it won't happen because the players have enough power that they can withstand it. The only thing then becomes, what happens to baseball if there's a work stoppage and fans sour, because fans are ready to sour on all pro sports because so much money is being thrown around. My question to you, Mal, is, do you see any creative solutions out there to not having a salary cap?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do, and most of it ties to revenue sharing, things like that. But I mean, the first thing, I had no idea. Maybe this is on me. I had no idea the Dodgers had such an advantage with their TV contract after the bankruptcy thing, and that they didn't have to share most of that TV. That is ridiculous. Like, that is because I'm all pro, everybody just be better and compete and spend dollars. But I mean, that's such a distinct advantage the Dodgers have over everybody else, which I think they need to figure out. I mean, it's not till 2039 that agreement is up. That's a problem for baseball that isn't solved by the players forcing a salary cap on them. That's not the answer to that. That's a Major League Baseball screw up, is what it is. And I get the idea when they go bankrupt back in the day. But I do think you tie it, again, I'm just so against, it's just a knee-jerk reaction that salary caps are the reason we have competitive balance, as if that's somehow a prize where every damn team looks exactly the same. I don't think that's good for sports. But take care of your own business. Share more revenues. Internally, I don't think a floor is the idea either. You always circumvent that nonsense. It's like you have a partner like the Pittsburgh Pirates that just will not spend the money they're giving and have huge profits. So that's where you got to take care of your own business as fellow owners to go, hey, you're hurting our product, you're hurting our brands, and what's that mean to the people of Pittsburgh? I mean, it's not desirable. So, I don't know. I just don't think you push that on players as if somehow, all these capitalist owners become socialists when it comes to, expenses and salaries. I don't know. I'm just so against it. I don't think it's the way. I don't have a problem with Dodgers and the Yankees and the Blue Jays having, bigger revenue streams. Be better for most teams. Be better. Build your business.
Yeah, I'm big on the revenue sharing from local broadcast markets because there's such a disparity. We talked last week about 9 teams whose association with FanDuel, they went belly up, and they're not getting that money. And the Dodgers get unlimited because they're now available in Japan and all over, and they have that team. So it's a team that people want to watch. And they don't share any of that revenue. I think revenue sharing, but how about this as an off-the-wall idea where deferrals to me are a big problem. How about if MLB has a rule where you have to pay 50% of the total salary over the course of the years that he's playing? So if a guy's like Ohtani, $700 million, 10 years, you got to pay $350 million to him over those 10 years. So you can't make him $2 million player and defer $68 million to down the road where nobody cares, except that you got 4 more World Series trophies hanging on the wall, just things like that too.
See, I don't know if that matters to the Dodgers. I'd say what would matter more is
it would matter the next time they try and add more players. Like Kyle Tucker's got a similar deferral thing going on, and Shohei, and I don't know about Yamamoto and those guys, but it might change the landscape a little bit when it comes to signing further players.
How about if you sign a player, the entire contract counts towards the penalty immediately. Like right now, the deferrals push the calculation for the threshold down the road. How about if Kyle Tucker, it's you have to account for the entire $60 million for your penalty? That would change things, I think. Yeah. That would change. So I don't care when you pay the player. The player's got to agree to having his money deferred, for starters. So right. that limits how much of it you can do. I mean, if I'm a player, I'm not going to agree to have most of my money deferred. I want my money. But if the team had to pay the penalty on all $60 million, that's going to cause them to go, wait a minute, like maybe we don't want to do that. Or, I think for starters, that's one of the biggest things I would do to restructure how that's done. I think that's a big hindrance for teams to willingly defer money. I don't know, pay the player whatever you want. I mean, that player's got to agree to it. It's how you penalize them that I think is the problem.
Well, I remember the strike in '94 that everyone knows the Expos were in first place and wanted the World Series to be played. They probably would have ended up playing the Yankees. But when baseball went out on August the 11th or 12th, the union and ownership said, if you have any suggestions on how we can solve this, if you have any ideas, send us a note. So I sent like 4 or 5 really good notes on how to solve this thing to the Players Association. And every time they would go, that wouldn't work. And that was the entire discussion.
Yeah.
That would work. So,
I bet you they were awesome too.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Once this thing happens, look for it to
How
be,
about this, Griff?
look for it to be for reasons we're not aware of yet. And it's going to be a long time.
I agree. How about this, though? Like you said, get creative. Take it upon yourself, which the owners don't want to do. They want to control costs. So we know why they want a salary cap. But how about, in addition to the penalties for going over the threshold, you go, okay, at a certain level, you could keep going over them, but you lose your first round pick, let's say. So that's a deterrent. That's without holding, that's also, there's no cap, but you go, okay, you go this far over, you start losing draft picks. And let's see what the appetite is for the Dodgers to sign a Kyle Tucker going, maybe we don't need to push our chips in on another top end player. And that disperses some of the talent out where, and then teams are going to be very careful about, hey, we don't want to lose draft picks. We don't want to lose. Just saying, there's a creative idea that's put on the ownership.
I think it's important this year that the Dodgers not win and that Kyle Tucker is not a $60 million player. I think that's important to the future of the game.
Sure.
Okay, two more things. NFL playoffs. Let's quickly go through this. Okay. I got Patriots minus 4.5 at the Broncos. And the Broncos, of course, don't have a quarterback.
I like the Broncos. I think that's too much of a change from what the spread would have been, which is Broncos -3. You know what I mean? I think Stidham can at least hang in there, and I think Peyton will have a good game plan against Drake May. I expect it to be a field goal game.
Yeah, I'd like the Broncos plus 4.5 also, because I don't think Bo Nix is like Joe Montana. I think there was always a decision about whether he was your guy starting last year and going to this year. So I don't think, as you point out, the difference in the line, I don't think Bo Nix was worth 7.5 points.
Right.
On the line. So this, we'll see. But and they're playing at home, and both teams have good defenses. And the over under 42.5, that's perfect. I mean, likely to go over, but could go under. So I wouldn't touch that. Rams plus 2.5 at the Seahawks, and I think they split their 2 regular season games.
I like the Rams. I get it. Hey, Seahawks couldn't look any better for the last. That's a heck of a team. I just think the Rams are a little bit better, even though they're not playing their best right now. I just think they're a slightly better football team than Seattle. Again, down to the wire, but. If I could just see the Rams lighten it up with Stafford here, I don't know. I like flip a coin, I guess.
Yeah, I like the Rams getting 2.5 also. So we agree on both games because I think I've seen those mattress commercials, and I'm sure Stafford will get a good night's sleep. So he'll be in well rested. So
he will be. Hey, speaking of football and my Buffalo Bills, and going back to the PR side of things. I mean, what a travesty of a press conference they just had.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing what I'm talking about. With Bo Bichette, there's just no excuse for him not to come off completely polished. But with Buffalo, as poorly as it was, and again, there are aspects of it not being prepared to answer some basic questions. Sometimes there is nothing you can do when the subject is incapable of handling themselves publicly, such as the owner. It's so difficult with, like you can prepare that man all you want, but he's just not quick enough on his feet, which is a scary proposition in other areas, to be in that environment. That is a PR nightmare. So no wonder you restrict his availability. I mean, it's such a terrible PR look.
What that tells you is that he must have backed away from the Sabres because they're all of a sudden turned good.
Well, he hasn't shown up and talked about the Sabres since 2000, I think.
Oh, okay. So you're saying they have a chance.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's quick. And then the Super Bowl 2 weeks down the road after that. So we won't talk about it next week, but we will the week after, leading into the Super Bowl. I got one last thing I want to ask you about your Ironbacks, the update on the Ironbacks in terms of roster. How many pitchers have you rounded up? How many position players? What are your needs?
Well, our needs are
how far ahead of you? How far ahead are you this year over last year?
Oh my gosh. Well, as you know, we said it before. I mean, I was just getting rolling now, full force, as we just had gotten the team over the holidays. So my position player roster is pretty much full, which is really exciting. Obviously, we're still looking for arms, and I think that's just how life goes in baseball. You're always looking for arms, but we're certainly further ahead than I mean, it's night and day. So, now the focus turns into getting into the community and just building the brand. And it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take some years to do that. But I'm happy with our progression. As I've always said, I want to be just a little bit better than I was the year before every year. As one wise man said, just get better every day. So that's what we're trying to do around here. So, it's like I said, we've pretty much got a full position player roster, which is saying something. We didn't have anybody last year at this time. Yeah. So woohoo. So
we'll wrap up with a shout out to Bob Elliott's Canadian Baseball Network and his number 46 pick, top 100 most influential Canadians in baseball, number 46, Patrick Griffin. My son, who is the regional scout for Canada and now has Ohio, West Virginia, and one other state. But that's I mean, that's great.
I think that you call a rising star right there. There's no question.
Yeah. 46. I mean, when I was writing at the Star, I never got above 64, and now my son gets 46.
Yeah, no, that's how it's supposed to go, though. So good for him, and of course, you and me were mentioned at 71. We'll say that just we put it up with the Ironbacks. So I'm very, very honored that they recognized, especially your great work that you've. I think that's I'm just tying my can to you. So
Well, I mean, it's good to be out there, and proud of Pat for number 46, and appreciative to Bob and his crew for doing the hard work, doing the legwork to get a top 100 list. And he goes beyond 100 because there's so many influential Canadians around. And so thank you to Bob and congratulations to Pat.
100%. Well done.
So we will be back next week, and it'll be almost time for spring training. But
Lord mercy, not with the weather here.
Yeah. In the meantime, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to share with your friends. And we will be talking to you next week. Thank you, Mal, for co-hosting. And this was a good one.
Take care.